Imagine being remembered by a bird. Not for a day, not for a week, for years. A crow flies overhead and somehow knows your face. It dives at you. It screams at you. It tells other crows about you. And you have no idea why. Maybe you wronged one of them a long time ago. Maybe you didn't even notice. But the crow noticed. And the crow never forgot. We tend to think of grudges as a deeply human thing. A messy, emotional human flaw. Something a bird could never carry. But what if that assumption is completely wrong? What if a crow can study your face, store it for years, and pass that hatred down to its own children? The real question isn't whether crows are smart. We already know they are. The real question is whether a bird can hold something as personal, as specific, and as lasting as a grudge against you. To answer that, we have to start with a strange experiment in Seattle. In 2006, a wildlife biologist named John Marsluff decided to test something almost no one had tested before. He wanted to know if crows could recognize individual human faces. So he and his students did something deliberately unfriendly. They put on rubber masks of a caveman. Then they walked into a park and trapped several wild crows. They tagged them, measured them, and let them go unharmed. But the crows remembered. From that day on, every time someone wore that caveman mask in the park, the crows lost their minds. They dive-bombed the mask. They screamed alarm calls. They gathered other crows to join the mob. Then the researchers tried something even stranger. They wore a second mask, a neutral one with no history at all. The crows ignored it. It wasn't the human shape that triggered them. It was the face. The specific face that had once meant danger. And here's where the story stops feeling like a science experiment and starts feeling like something else. Years passed. The original trapped crows kept attacking the caveman mask. But so did crows that had never been trapped. Young crows that hadn't even been born during the original event. Crows that had only ever seen that face from a distance. Somehow, the warning had traveled. Parent to chick, neighbor to neighbor, flock to flock. The grudge had become cultural. Think about what that means. A crow can teach another crow that a specific human is dangerous, without words, without writing, just through behavior, alarm calls, and watching. That is not instinct. That is memory turning into tradition. And the experiment kept going. For over a decade, the caveman face was still being mobbed in that same park, long after the original event, long after most of the original crows were gone. The hatred had outlived the offense. So how does a crow even do this? How does a brain the size of a walnut hold on to a single human face for so long? The answer lives in something called the niddlepallium caudolaterale. It is a region of the crow's forebrain. And it functions a lot like the prefrontal cortex in humans, the part of our brain we use for planning, judgment, and remembering people. For a long time, scientists assumed only mammals had this kind of higher reasoning hardware. Crows quietly proved them wrong. Their brains are densely packed with neurons, far more per gram than most mammals of similar size. A crow's brain is small, but it is not simple. It is one of the most concentrated thinking machines in the animal kingdom, and it is wired, in part, to study faces. Now imagine the world from a crow's point of view. You are clever. You live a long time, sometimes 15 to 20 years in the wild. You share territory with humans your entire life. Some humans feed you. Some humans throw things at you. Some humans trap your family. If you couldn't tell them apart, you would die. So your brain learned to read us, the way we learn to read each other. A grudge for a crow isn't bitterness. It is survival. It is a database of faces that have hurt your kind, kept alive in your head, and shared with everyone you know. And here is where it gets even more uncomfortable for us. Crows seem to gossip. When a crow spots a dangerous human, it doesn't just react. It calls. A specific, sharp alarm call that draws other crows in. Those other crows arrive, look at the human, and learn. Sometimes they never see that person hurt anyone. They just trust the messenger. This is called social learning, and it is one of the foundations of culture. The same mechanism that lets a human child learn to fear fire without being burned. A young crow can learn to hate your face without you ever doing anything to it. Let me pause and ask you something. Have you ever felt like a particular bird in your neighborhood had it out for you? Maybe a crow that always screams when you walk by. Maybe a magpie that dives at your hat in the spring. Drop a comment and tell me your story. I read them all, and the crow stories are usually the strangest. Now back to the grudges. Because the experiments didn't stop in Seattle, researchers in other countries started noticing similar things. In Japan, crows recognized specific researchers who had handled them. In Germany, ravens, who are close cousins of crows, remembered humans who had cheated them in food experiments. Not for hours, for up to 2 years afterward. A raven that felt cheated would refuse to trade with that same person again, but would happily trade with someone who had played fair. That is not memory. That is reputation. The bird is keeping a moral ledger in its head. It is deciding who is trustworthy, and it is acting on that judgment long after the original moment. Some crows take it even further. They have been seen bringing small gifts to humans who feed them. Buttons, bits of glass, tiny bones, polished pebbles. A girl in Seattle named Gabby became famous for this. She fed neighborhood crows every day, and they started leaving her trinkets in return. Earrings, a heart-shaped charm, a piece of a broken light bulb arranged just so. If crows can remember a kindness and try to repay it, then the opposite is just as real. They can remember an injury, and they can punish it. Year after year after year. So what does this mean for us? It means the crows in your neighborhood are watching. They know which house feeds them. They know which car belongs to the loud neighbor. They probably know your walking route. And if you have ever chased one, or thrown something at one, or harmed a chick that fell from a nest, there may be a flock that quietly knows your face. That sounds almost supernatural. But it is just biology. A long-lived, brilliant social animal that shares its world with us, paying attention. We are not the only ones taking notes. There is something humbling in that idea. We spend so much of our lives assuming we're the observers. We watch animals in zoos. We film them in documentaries. We study them in labs. But all the while, some of them are studying us right back, sorting us into categories: friend, threat, indifferent, and remembering. Maybe the most surprising thing about a crow's grudge is what it tells us about ourselves. Holding a grudge is often treated as a weakness, a flaw to be released, forgiven, moved past. But for a crow, a grudge is wisdom. It is the memory of a real harm kept alive to protect the next generation. It is a small black bird saying, "I saw what you did, and I will not let my children forget." When you put it that way, a grudge sounds less like bitterness and more like love. Love for the family you are trying to keep safe. So could a crow hold a grudge for years? Yes. The science says yes. The masks in Seattle say yes. The ravens in Germany say yes. The crows that still dive at the caveman face decades later say yes. But maybe the better question is this. If a creature with a brain the size of a walnut can recognize you, judge you, and remember you for life, what else have we been wrong about? What else are the animals around us quietly noticing? What else are they teaching their young about us in a language we can't hear? The next time a crow looks at you a little too long, don't laugh it off. It might be reading your face. It might be deciding what kind of human you are. And whatever it decides, it might remember for the rest of its life. If this made you see crows a little differently, give the video a like. It really does help more curious people find the channel. Subscribe if you want more stories like this one, or the smartest minds in nature turn out to be hiding in plain sight. And tell me in the comments, do you think humans deserve some of the grudges crows hold against us? I want to hear your honest answer. In the next video, we are going deeper into the strange social lives of birds and asking whether magpies might actually mourn their dead. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for spending this time with me. And the next time a crow watches you from a wire, remember, you are being remembered too.